so much. I appreciate the opportunity to speak. Before I start with what I was going to say, I just want to piggyback off of the last point that she made, of that it doesn't take a large amount of people to get a movement going. This is one thing any people who are really trying to start a movement have looked into. And it really only takes about 3% of a population to move and get the ball rolling. Because a lot of people want to know the truth and just don't have the opportunity to. And so if you get your neighbors and your friends who are open to this to call your congressmen and our senators here, it definitely can push the ball rolling. And I'd like to say that Marjorie Taylor Greene has also made a tweet about freeing Julian Assange. And so depending on who you're talking to, use the people, the politicians that they may agree with or believe into to push this chance. I remember the first time I met Kendra, she came to an End the Damn Wars rally I held in September of 2021. And at that time, most of the people who walked by said, wars? What wars? What possible wars are we getting into? And since then, we have withdrawn from Afghanistan. The war in Ukraine has gone on. News articles have come out about troops that we have in Somalia, and many other bases around the world, places that we have no business being in. And then Kendra came to a Liberty on the Rocks event and actually talked about Julian Assange. And I was at that point very open and knew that Julian Assange was being attacked, but I learned a couple things. One of which was all the information that has come out, all of it was true. No government has actually been able to or has tried to disprove any of the information that's come out. And the second is that none of the information that has come out has put any people's lives in danger. No secret agents or operatives that are in countries that need their identities protected. Even if they are doing operations we would not advise of, it is still important to protect those identities. So knowing this, I don't see any good reason why Julian Assange is being attacked, other than ultimately America is an empire in decline. We have been a global empire for decades now. Starting after World War II, when we fought against the Soviet Union, and that has continued. But in today's age, things have changed. Countries have rebuilt themselves, different alliances have formed, and we are still stuck in alliances that do us no good because the enemies we created against them no longer exist. And people are finally more open to this message. I think everyone saw the disaster. Even though everyone wanted to get out of Afghanistan, everyone saw the utter disaster that was. We have tried to push a war resolution to end our involvement in Yemen. And right now, China is actually involved with Saudi Arabia to end their involvement in Yemen. And if any of you don't know, there has been a Saudi Arabian war against Yemen now for many years, where they have bombed countless civilians, and the body count may match other places in the Middle East, but just is not talked about. And U.S. troops have not been sent there, but U.S. missiles and U.S. planes have been given to Saudi Arabian pilots and have bombed those civilians. And so China, a country not particularly well known for its human rights, upholding human rights, may be the one leading the charge in ending that war. And that is an embarrassing thing for the United States. We should always value free speech. If you go back many years in this country, before really like pre-World War I, there were many, and still are, but many regional newspapers. And it was amazing the different things that were printed. Some absolutely completely false. If you're a history person, go back and look at some of the archaeology articles they write. It's a super fun time to read some of the things that they find and are like, oh, this was this, or this was this, and now we know it's something else. But it gave a lot of freedom, and it certainly gave people a much bigger ability to speak their mind. Someone made a point months ago that I never considered, and that was that when the White House and the government releases news, every major newspaper immediately parrots what they said without fact-checking any of it. And I never really thought about that before, but it is really true. And even in major conflicts where they have disagreed with the president, like the war on terror with George W. Bush, it was always a criticism of George W. Bush being stupid or the way that he would speak, but it never really was a call to end the war. It never really was a call to take our troops home. And most of the politicians voted for that, many that are still in office today. With a new rising tide of radicals in Congress. And these are people like Ilhan Omar and Marjorie Taylor Greene, people who I don't agree with on a lot of domestic policy, but it is important in days like this to align yourselves where you can on single issues. I'm part of the Mises Caucus in the Libertarian Party. The biggest thing we believe in working with other people is finding single issues we can believe in. We held a giant End the Damn Wars rally in Washington, D.C., and the People's Party, a group that economically we don't agree with, were the ones who stepped up to join us. They were courageous in stepping up to end this, and we had a lot of great speakers. You know, Tulsi Gabbard, Dennis Kucinich came out. Lots of people from different viewpoints, because we all understand that what is going on around the world is not great. Our currency may be failing, the empire is dying, but the thing to remember is that's not the end of America. We were not an empire to begin with. We were not an empire for 200 years. It really wasn't until after World War II, that this started. And a new chapter is starting in America. And that new chapter may be rough, but if we understand that America is what should be our priority, that doesn't mean we can't trade with other people, and we should, but trade is good, war is bad, and we need to change the way we do things around the world. And if it takes the 3% of us showing up at a congressman's office and making them understand this is the best way to go, you don't need 400 Congress people to sign on to that letter. But if you get 100 of them, it sends a strong message. And maybe a war's resolution will be put forth again, and then it will get passed. It is an impressive thing. The Senate just passed a resolution to end military engagement in Iraq. Now, I will admit I don't really know how that deals with the troop withdrawal. I don't know if the House also needs to sign off on that. I don't know if ultimately the White House needs to sign off on that, but it is a really good push in the right direction. So if you find someone who you can't agree with on anything else except for the fact that the U.S. doesn't need to be around the world doing everything, it doesn't need bases still in northern Italy, it doesn't need missiles on the border of, Russia and Turkey. Turkey is still part of NATO, a country that now has nothing in common with the United States and nothing in common with Russia. They are positioning to be a major player in their region of the world. The world is changing, and the U.S. must figure out how to change with it. We have great allies here with Canada and Mexico. We can sustain ourselves, and that doesn't mean not trading. I'm a big fan of trading in Asia, but we do need to be realistic about who ultimately our real enemies are. And ultimately, it is the bureaucracy of the United States. And that doesn't mean everyone who works for the federal government is an evil person. But lots of evil things are done by the government in the name of the United States. Mm-hmm. And unfortunately, it always comes back to affect the population. That's why we held that rally in September of 2001. It was the 10-year anniversary of 9/11. And on that day, 3,000 Americans paid for a mistake that their government made that they had no idea, no understanding of what had happened. The people who started that did not pay. Maybe politicians will lose their job at best, and if a federal employee really messes up, maybe they will be quietly let go and be handed a huge severance package. And we just can't let this happen anymore. We have to find a way to hold these people accountable. We want a future where we are able to look at our children and give them the free country that they truly deserve, to be able to speak their minds, protect themselves, and trade and work with their neighbors, and learn that their communities are the most important thing, and the people around them are the most important thing. So find friends, make friends, and when you see your neighbors around, say hi, get to know them if you don't know them. It's okay to be in your neighborhood and know the people on the other block. So thank you so much.
Woo!